So like, so let's say we have this like really fascinating image. Whatever, Photoshop, you're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me, Photoshop. All right, so you have like this just thing, whatever this is, right? So for me, refinement, all refinement is like, okay, making sense of what all this nonsense is, right? So some things need to get smoothed out, like this stuff, but maybe I'll come in here and make it a feature, you know? Like I'm not getting rid of like those lines. I'm making them part of the design, right?
All right.
So that's like more clear, not like this is what I wouldn't do, which would be like this. I wouldn't like completely remove that and completely remove all this texture and stuff, you know, for the sake of smoothing it out. I would try to like make sure that I maintain the charm of whatever was going on here. Which this in itself is a cool concept. What I'm painting here, it's like very surreal. Sick. You know, like I just make things more obviously clear. That's all.
All right. I get you. I get you.
Yeah. You know, I'm like all about making things feel more clear, not less clear. Make sense? Even though this started off pretty abstract, I can see some secondary forms in here. And then use tools that will help me get there. Right? I don't know what this is, but I like it.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
It's like really, really abstract and surreal. I'm like, I'm a OG, just good old fashioned round brush motherfucker, you know? Just could do everything using just a simple round brush. But I recently, because I've been trying to get better at comic books, have been learning how to harness my inner texture artist, you know, using lots of textures. Yeah. It's going to be a Kim Kardashian tune me, and now it's becoming this. I'd rather paint this, or at least for the moment. I'm at a very low resolution, though. Need to increase this resolution. Oh, what the? Let's take it a second. I know Photoshop. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were cooking. Didn't seem like you were. Oh, kind of like sharpened it too. Tight. But the thing is, like, when you start to render like you're doing right now, right? You're going to be learning about yourself and what you're doing wrong. You understand?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to learn, like, oh, I pushed it too far, or I didn't push it far enough, by a process of experimentation and trial and error. That's why I always encourage rendering and rendering often. Maybe like once or twice a week, try to do like a really polished painting, you know? So it's like part of your repetition, like repetitive training, like repetitions. Like, don't just always do sketches, because then you're gonna get really good at sketching. I have friends who that's all they practice because it's so cool and so visceral, but then they had a harder time getting work because all their sketches were subpar drawings. But it's because they were looking at like masters, like people like Craig Mullins, who just has a reputation for these like really gestural paintings, you know. But like I've mentioned before, he's not a good example to look at because of that lie. It's an illusion. Not all concept artists can get away with drawing in this way.
I see.
And you don't become versatile. Like, he can only really do one type of concept art, which is like high illustrative, like keyframes and stuff like this. You know? Anyway, any other questions? That was a good one, though. Any questions, friends, colleagues? No?
I have one.
There you go. I knew it. Getting nervous there. I was like, you guys know all the answers.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a question that you can just directly answer, or if it's like one of the things that you just got to figure out yourself. But what's the difference between being resilient? Because I know you talk about building up, your resilience rather than being inspired and stuff. What's the difference between being resilient and knowing when to give yourself a break?
Resilience is not about necessarily like long hours. Resilience is like not being so hard on yourself. Does that make sense? Right? Like when people think about like hard work, they think about like putting in long hours. What I would rather have you think about hard work as I mean, there is going to be moments where it's like long hours for sure. You know what I mean? But I'd rather you think about it more along the lines of like, I'd rather you think of it more along the lines of it's just hard to do. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you're doing, it's just hard in general.
Right.
Like, if you're practicing like your forms, or you're practicing materials like metal or something, like it's hard. Like, it's just like, it's not easy to learn it. And you feel really discouraged as every attempt seems like you're not really understanding 100%,
Right.
But you can say to yourself, like, I'm going to do that for about minimum 2 hours. Right. So it's not like an enjoyable 2 hours. It's like a very focused 2 hours. Make sense? And that to me is what I mean by resilience. I don't mean like resilience of like spending 10 hours just noodling and doodling and not really doing anything of challenge, right?
Right.
Because that's just grinding. That's just like mindlessly practicing something that you might actually still not understand. And then you get blindsided when you try to make a real attempt at it and it's so bad, you know? Like you study
Right.
forms, quote unquote, right? And then after like 3 or 4 hours of like 4 or 5 hours of studying, and then you go to try to make a character and it's just complete nonsense, right? And you're just like completely shocked. You're like, but I spent like 3 or 4 hours. But did you actually pay attention? Were you testing yourself in between, you know? Were you doing anything that was giving you some sensible knowledge, you know? And that to me is usually the way you shouldn't be practicing. You know, you shouldn't be practicing in a way that's not really teaching you anything, you know? Even though you'll still ultimately still learn something from that bad approach.
Mm.
You will. You actually still will learn a thing or two. It's just so nuanced. It's so secondary. You know, you won't even notice, right?
Right.
That it feels like
Follow-up
you're
question
learning.
to that. Oh, sorry.
It feels like you're like learning nothing, but you are. It's
Yeah.
just so much more indirect. But if you're like only spending 2 hours because you said mandatory, and you're really focused, right? You're just like, okay, I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna learn this, and I'm paying attention. I'm gonna test myself often. I'm gonna repeat results. You know,
Right.
that is what resilience to me means, right? Because
So it's like kind of being smart with your effort, essentially.
no, it's that you are doing hard work that makes it this just feels so you just feel so uncomfortable because you're really putting yourself
Right.
in a different position that you normally would be in. You know, you're really challenging yourself in ways that you've never challenged yourself, but you're only doing it for a limited time. But it's that resilience. It's like weight training is very similar, right? Like if you try to lift or do like large amounts of weight, you know, it's less about lifting super heavy for like 7 hours a day. It's more about just lifting heavy in general, right? And putting up with it. Like I remember my
I see.
buddy
I see.
first started working out with me, and he would do like he was doing bench press. He would lift, and he'd be like going and I'd be counting, be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? He's just doing the reps, and we get to 6, and it's like easy peasy, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when he gets to 6, he's like, "Oh, I can't do it anymore." And he tries to rack it, right? And I explained to him, I was like, "No, no, no, no. Like, you felt a little bit of like stress. You started feeling a little bit of fatigue, you know, because it's like the first time you may have experienced this feeling.
Right.
But you had at least like 3 more reps. You know what I mean? That's
I see.
resilience. It's knowing that it's like you're not feeling comfortable, but you're doing it because of like the long term goal. It's having foresight. And
Gotcha.
patience,
Gotcha.
yeah, patience is the idea that you know that if you spend years training, right? Years training and practicing and being diligent, patience is what fuels your resilience, right? Because if you're just being like strong-willed and you don't really have any reason why, like you don't know why you should be, like what's the point of it, you know? Then resilience can be really fickle. But if you have this, oh, no wonder. I was wondering why the noise felt so cool. It's because since I was at such a low resolution. Interesting. So maybe I could go back down. Let's try that. Do low resolution images and then increase the resolution. Yeah, look at that. Feels like old photography when you have like more noise like that. It's nice. Yeah, that's dope. Um, yeah, the patience is just a helpful guide, you know, to be like, I know it's right now it sucks, but in time we'll feel better about this. You know, that's what patience does for you. you know. And then so when you're going through it, you're a lot more likely to be more resilient because you're just like, I got to just do it. It's just part of the deal, you know. All right, what was your follow-up question?
I forgot a little bit, but I think it was it was about work ethic, because I haven't started working yet. I just graduated college, and
Cool.
I want to have good work ethic, but I don't know what that looks like yet. So,
what do you think it looks like?
I mean, it's probably just getting deadlines, on time and doing what work you have to do. But I don't know. I feel like maybe I could improve on, my resilience, because I don't know. Yesterday I had a really, really bad headache for the entire day, and I pushed through with the painting. That was actually my second attempt at it, because the first attempt took really, really long, and I just didn't like it. But the second time, I think I got it a bit easier, and it just came out, I think, a little bit better.
Cool.
But now I'm feeling like maybe I should take a bit of a break and paint later in the day, when a part of me is telling me that no, you should be painting right now. You should be, not wasting, this time listening to Anthony Jones. You should just keep going. But I don't know. I sort of feel like I want to paint, but I feel like I don't want to paint, and that's like a confusing feeling for me.
Yeah, so it's just about, to me, work ethic is more like on the lines of being consistent. So if you take a break and then you get back on it and you reach the deadline or you reach your goals, that's good work ethic. There's nothing wrong with taking breaks. In fact, I hate this principled idea that like, hey man, so like Steve Harvey was like, you know why I wake up like 4 a.m? Because like the stock market opens at 6. And he's talking about like how the time difference. He's like, you think they give a fuck? And it's like really kind of motivational, like this principled idea of like just kind of being above all else. But it's teaching kind of a really dangerous kind of like system of thinking that I don't necessarily agree with. I used to, but as time has went on, I've come to realize that it's super dangerous. It's really bad for your health, and you don't need to work that hard unless you want to be the very, very, very best, at something, right? And luckily for you, being the very, very best concept artist is not necessary to get work. Okay. And so usually what I try to tell people is be way more efficient with your time. Like think thoroughly about like what you're trying to do. If you need to take a break, take a break. But like, let's say I asked you to do 5 drawings and you only do 1, right? And you had plenty of time and you did, right? And you rested too much. That's something you can be critical of. You know what I mean? Like if I'm asking you what I've asked of you, which was like, I believe 3 characters. Was that right? I don't think I asked you to do too much.
No.
Was it all the characters?
Yeah, that was my homework for next session. Was
Yeah,
all
actually,
5 of them.
Yeah, and that's not too many. 5 is not too bad,
Yeah.
Especially since you got a good head start on 1. And I'm only asking you to do grayscale, right?
Yeah.
So this is like if you did a character a day, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? If you spent like 4 hours each day, you could totally reach that goal, right? And that's how you should think about it. But like, let's say if Wednesday night comes around, you haven't even started. That's when you can be critical of like, yeah, I could have worked on every day up to this point. That's what I think is when you can be way more judgmental. But if you're like feeling tired after like a long night's of work already that you've already invested, then sleep, man. Like I take naps. It's all good, dude. Just try to get the work done the time that you needed to get it done. That's all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, I think it's actually a bad system of thinking the other way. You know, that approach of just grind, grind, grind. Like when I heard like they said, you know, Chris Hart, apparently my friend was telling me like he only sleeps like 3 hours a night.
Damn.
And I'm like, that guy's
Holy
an
shit.
idiot, dude. Like what a dumbass, man. What was he thinking? Like he's got kids, man. You know, he's got like a family and stuff. So, like
Oof.
he's got more than enough money to like pay for them and their kids and their kids' kids. You know? Like I'm in a position where I feel like if I kind of make the right moves in the next few years, I can potentially be a lot more relaxed and have a lot more time, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that's all I want is time. I want time back.
Mm.
And so I've built myself I put myself in a pigeonhole a little bit because I'm working too much too often, you know? And so I'm trying to like work really hard to not work hard, you know? And so that's why I encourage people to build better like work habits of just being consistent, rather than like hustle, dude. Hustle till you freaking, you know, until you die. Like, no, I think it's best to just be a little more pragmatic. That's all.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and like I think he's being a fool, man. Like I'm a big fan of him too. But like these are clearly not good choices. You know what I mean? And even like Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant, you know, the late Kobe Bryant understood this. That's why he just kind of just stopped doing everything and ultimately just put all his time and attention to his family. He was focused on his daughter, right? And just trying to help her build up her own legacy, which, you know, tragically is not going to happen anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But that was his goal. Like he built like a women's, like he started building up the women's basketball team. Like he started like to really make some moves, you know what I mean? And it was like his goal, and his goal wasn't to work like crazy hours. I watched a video of him recently talking about how important sleep is. Like he used to like only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep because he had that same philosophy. Like I need to like spend time like every minute, every second. You know, I need to do. I mean, that's the reason why he even had a helicopter, right? Was to save time. And so ultimately, he started sleeping more often. He started getting like 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep. He started meditating. He started realizing that sleeping wasn't something getting in his way, like resting and stuff, like was getting in his way. He realized that was part of being a superior athlete, was to sleep better than everybody else too. He said, because when you have good sleep and you have a clear mind, you go to the game like better than everybody else. You're not stressed out. You feel well alert, you know? He says all the training can be solidified. And I agree with this 1,000,000%. So yes, of course, take breaks, man, if you need to. Don't stress too much. All you need to worry about is get the task done. Manage your time real effectively. Think through how you're going to do it, you know? And then do it, my man.
All right. Thanks. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, don't fall into the hype of like, oh, you gotta hustle till you die. Okay. Yeah, the Rock too, man. And then I'm one of those people, and it makes me sad, like, because I actually love the Rock and Kevin Hart. I think these guys are really good people, you know, that they have these really good messages and have really positive attitudes about a lot of things, you know. And they work out way too much. They do too much. It's going to be the detriment to them, you know, to their livelihood.
Yeah, it's probably a balance that you just gotta find.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen like what The Rock eats too, man? It's like clearly he's going to die from a heart attack, man. Like full pizzas. Just like, what the fuck, dude? Like 4 or 5 like layers of it. And I'm like, dude, that is clearly not healthy, you know. But like he has this like perception, like full like public perception of being like this bigger than life human being, you know, like literally. And I'm not talking about like figuratively, like literally like a monster giant person.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like you think about people like that are in that same position. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger was in that same position. He suffered like 4 or 5 heart attacks, I think. Forget how many.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm exaggerating. Let me double check. Let me give my phone. How many heart attacks did Arnold?
But just one's already like a big red flag already.
Dude, yeah, he had like heart surgery. Did he have a stroke too? Paid for. Oh no, this is something else. He's recovering from heart surgery from last year. Yeah, he basically, his doctor, yeah, he had like another heart attack. He basically, his doctor was like, yeah, you gotta change everything you do because it's killing you, you know. And he started doing that, you know.
Yeah.
Will Smith, I heard like he takes cholesterol lowering medication. I'm like, yo, dude, you're so wealthy. Like, get a nutritionist. Talking about this game, this work hard attitude. Like, use that same strategy to eat and eat better and like work out more, you know, and more consecutively. But you know, there is this thing about like the kings and queens used to die from strokes and heart attacks and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
called the
because they
kings and
ate much worse than
yeah,
most of the peasants. Yeah.
yes, they ate tons of like food. They ate way too much, and they ate too much food that was not. It was like gourmet, and it was like think about like
Yeah.
that one chef
Because it
that
was
just cooks
satisfying.
only with like butter. You know, that she also died from like a heart attack. Like it's like imagine having the ability to afford that kind of meal every day, and it tastes delicious. Like those types of things do taste crazy good. You know, you stack them with sugar and fats. It's sketch, man. Like, and trust me, man. Everybody always is like, well, I'd rather be happy like eating the foods that I eat, you know, and then like being strict and thinking about what I eat every day, you know. Hold on. I had a friend say that once to me, and then he had like a colonoscopy because he was having really bad stomach problems, and then he was just like, "Hey, man, like, what do you eat, dude? Give me some advice." And I'm like, "Oh, what happened to like eating whatever I want because I want to be happy?" You know, I didn't say that. That would have been insensitive. But in my mind, I was thinking it. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, how the tables will turn." It's just when nothing's going wrong, it's easy to say stuff like this. You know, it's until you actually realize you might actually die or there's some real terminal illness that you start to change your tune real fast. You know,
Yeah.
especially because he's not that old. He's like in his early 40s. I was telling him too. I was like, no, you think this is gonna happen to you like when you're 70 or something, when you're like really old and you don't really care about life anymore. Like this is gonna happen to you sooner than you think. It's like people are sicker younger. You know, our life and expectancy just went up for the first time in many years. You know, like we have the best modern medicine and all this kind of great stuff, but it's not. It doesn't matter if people are eating like garbage. But that goes back to my point of like people are working way too hard. It's not good for your health. I was just talking to my friend last night about how I am like when I go train, I'm done training like a bodybuilder. I watch a lot of these YouTube videos stuff, so I get like inspired. I'm like, oh man, I got to do that, you know. And I'm like overexerting myself like so much. And he's like, yeah, dude, like I feel the same way. I stopped playing basketball at lunch. And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, because I would like go hard. I'll like always try to win, you know. And like the other day, I like he's like, I broke my nose once. I like almost pulled a disc out of my back. I'm like trying to like swat somebody, you know. He's like, my hamstrings feel freaking jacked. And he's like, why am I going so hard, dude? I'm a fucking old, like I'm a dad. You know, I'm not like Michael Jordan. I'm not trying to like go for like, you know, the championships. This is just casual play with my buddies, right? And I'm like, yeah, dude, stop going so hard. You know, and it's this kind of mentality, you know, it's a very Western mentality, and I disagree with it. I think there's a lot of value of just being consistent and complacent in a very intelligent way, you know.
Gotcha.
So hopefully that gave you some real value and meaning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like you can totally achieve your goals to become a great artist in a short amount of time, with very minimal time. You don't have to spend all these hours. You could spend easily 4 to 5 hours a day, and that's more than enough. Yeah, that gives you time to have a real life, to go hang out with people that you care about, have experiences, you know.
Yeah.
So forth and so on.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't want to hog all the questions.
No, I'm sure that I spent some time on that because I'm sure that other people can really relate and get some value
Yeah,
out of hearing
definitely.
that.
Yeah.
So if I felt like it was just like a one and gun type of question, I would have just stopped talking a long time ago. Any other questions? See, nobody had a question anyway.
Well, maybe I've got one.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. So I would like to build up my portfolio because I'm in a situation where I'm working 3 jobs and I just have to move on. And do you think it's a proper way to build up my portfolio? Maybe to think about like 1 month projects like this one,
Yeah,
like we are doing
absolutely.
here. So maybe I think about a theme every month and try to work on that one theme and make 1 week sprints with phases in this project.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So maybe,
right now I have like this theme of like drawing more like sketches like you're seeing here, but
Mhm.
also like doing these like face thingies, right? I've been doing. Like that's on my mind too, you know?
Mhm.
And I've done a few already and I've got a lot of really good attention from them, you know? And it's just like kind of like a theme there, you know? And
Mhm.
so I'm always a big fan of whatever makes you draw often, you should do it. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it. A lot of people just don't draw often enough. You
Mhm.
understand? And so then they don't put enough effort, and then they have a lot of issues because then they like have nothing to show for like months of time going by. And so you should just have this principled idea of like just doing consistent work,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And so if
Sure.
you feel like that's going to help you, then do it. Absolutely.
And should I connect with these projects with my practices? For example, mm, I'm I'm very bad at drawing hands or faces, so maybe I should think about a project in 1 month, focusing on on faces. So.
Dude, totally.
Mhm.
You have it themed based off of what you want to do. So like
Mhm.
I'm doing a part of my project I'm doing for the Patreon I'm running is very much that. is like I have a project where I'm trying to make comics. So everything that I've been doing lately, like this kind of sketchy style, more dynamicness out of my paintings, is specifically to service that, you know, like to see how this could bring me value for later on to make comics and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So you can see how as I'm doing these more and more of these types of sketches, especially how quickly I'm able to pump them out, how that could add a lot of value for me in the future, you know? And that's why I do it. That's why I practice it. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, man. All right, let's make this look juicy. Some good questions, y'all. Any more questions? All right, I'm gonna give you guys a couple more seconds. Otherwise, I'm gonna roll out then. Haven't said goodnight to my kids. It'll be a good time. This is supposed to be a Kim Kardashian piece, but I think I'm just going to just call this a day. Yeah, I like how this turned out a lot. It was a demonstration of being a little bit more how to polish some abstraction. I ended up making a thing. All right. So I appreciate you guys. So remember what I said. This coming week, we're going to meet up on Thursday, and it's going to be the last 2 classes. So make sure to put all your best effort over the next 4 to 5 days. Stay focused. Don't be strangers. And I'll see you guys next week. Good luck.
Hey, bye.
All right.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.